Hello everyone, James Baker here, and today we are doing the July 7th Ask Me Anything, second Ask Me Anything. Very excited to be here and go through some questions that we got this week. Obviously, if you're not here to do it live, I'm going to answer your question. If you're here live, then I can elaborate on the question, but that's it. Okay, question one. Hello everyone, James Baker here, and today we are doing the July 7th Ask Me Anything, second Ask Me Anything. Very excited to be here and go through some questions that we got this week. Obviously, if you're not here to do it live, I'm going to answer your question. If you're here live, then I can elaborate on the question, but that's it. Okay, question one. Do I need to disclose partnership details if asked after completing a W-9 for them filing as a partnership LLC? Great question. After completing W-9, I would say for a multi-member LLC, taxed as a partnership. Cool. So, do I need to disclose partnership details if asked after completing W-9 for multi-member LLC taxed as a partnership? So, the answer here, it really depends. I hope I don't have to say that on every single question today. But it depends. It depends what you're asking for or what kind of transaction you're getting into. If you're asking for a loan or a bank account or any kind of financial institution thing, ultimately they're going to ask for the details of the owners of the partnership, the ultimate beneficial owners. You can't register in the name of a company on its own for anything. You always have to disclose who the owners are, whether it's a bank or whatever. For someone who's paying you, and then it gets to the second question, when do you not have to report who the owners are of the partnership? Or at least, and generally it's a 20% or greater owner. It depends on what it's for, again, but you don't have to disclose who the owners are if this is just to verify your tax status and receive a payment. So if somebody's paying you for some work that you did, you do not need to give them the details of who the partners are as long as you give them the W-9. It's only when you're applying to a financial institution or if you're deciding to open any kind of account with any kind of licensed or regulatory institution. And it's always for KYC, know your client purposes, just to it's because they have to do it for their due diligence. Only when it's for a tax form, you don't have to tell them who the partners are. So if I'm paying you for something and I ask for a W-9, you give me that, I can't ask who the partners are and who the owners are. And if I can't ask it, but you don't have to tell me. I just have to get the W-9 and then I pay you and give you a 1099, and it's that easy. That I want to know is an LLC taxed as a C corporation the best option for my Amazon business? That's the question I want to answer first. You didn't ask it, but I'm going to answer it anyways because you have the option to use an LLC and not pay any US taxes and only deal with your taxes in Kazakhstan. And by the fact that you live and run your business in Kazakhstan, you still already have some tax exposure in Kazakhstan. In this case, I would recommend potentially an offshore structure using a Cayman Islands company that owns your LLC in order to avoid paying tax in Kazakhstan. Most of the countries in the region of Kazakhstan, out there east, are you don't pay taxes on money you don't bring back to the country. So what I would recommend to you is reconsider your operations, potentially revoke your C Corp election, and make as much profit as you want without paying any taxes in the US. Or make a new LLC. That's what I would recommend to you and all of your contemporaries. You don't need a C corporation or an LLC elected to be a C corporation to operate on Amazon at all. And if you have a C corporation, you're going to have these problems where you're paying taxes. So again, I have many, many clients who are using single member LLCs or multi-member LLCs to operate in Amazon, sell a lot, and they pay zero income taxes in Amazon, and Amazon doesn't withhold taxes, and there's no problem. So my first recommendation in your situation, sir, would be to reconsider your tax strategy and revisit it and potentially schedule a call with us so that we can go into your situation in detail. That's like the first question, and sign up, keep and ask me another question in the AMA. If you're in here in the chat, Daniel, send me a text about it. And to the next point, how is inventory treated and deducted on a C corporation tax return? That's the follow-up question here, and that's what I'm going to answer right now. If you have a cash basis taxpayer and sales under 1 million, it's considered a small business corporation. Again, I'm not researching anything. I'm not reading a citation, but if the sales are under 1 million, it's either 1, 5, or 10 million. I don't know the answer here. Let's go in Safari. If the sales are lower than, if it's a small business corporation, then you can expense inventory as you pay for it. The laws surrounding the support of this position are complicated, and it's a gray area, but I've done it for clients. I've worked with clients. There's literature on it. The position's been taken, and if you're a small taxpayer, the audit risk is really low. And the concept is that when you're a cash basis taxpayer, you can you can deduct your inventory when you pay for it. It's only when you surpass small business corporation sales threshold, USA IRS. No, I don't know that. I don't know the definition. I think it's 1 or 5 million. Um, can I deduct my inventory purchases for my C corporation? See, generally, this is the position. Inventory is not a deduction. You buy something and it's not an expense until you sell it or you dispose of it. So generally, your accountant is right that you cannot deduct inventory until it's sold. However, if you're a cash basis taxpayer with sales under, again, $1 or $5 million a year, then you can deduct it, and we can set it up to take that position so that you are using it as a deduction for your taxes. Yeah, this isn't useful. Okay, I have the research done somewhere else, but that's not really the point. However, if you cannot, if you're the accountant you're working with doesn't want to deduct the inventory, then you have to pay tax on it, on the profits, because if you if you can't deduct it, it's an asset. That means you don't have the expense. That means you have the profit. That's just how the numbers work out. And we I understand your position, but if it's an accrual-based corporation, technically your accountant's right. I mean, it looks like it's right because on the accrual you deduct stuff as it's expensed. But if it's a cash basis business and your sales are under 1 to 5, I think it's a $5 million average over year over year for the last 3 years. If your sales are under that, you can maintain cash basis status. Or you can avoid it altogether by using an LLC instead of a C corporation. It's an LLC C corp, and just not pay any taxes. So that's what I would ultimately recommend. So let's get back to it here. If no inventory is treated as an asset, that is only becomes an expense when you sell the inventory. And I hear what you're saying, man. I feel for you. There's different options you have, and it's rough position. Yeah, so if you want to work with us, we have many different options. We have subscription options, we have membership options, which are being developed, and we also, obviously, I do the tax forms and the tax filings. I'm a tax expert, and I'm finding the best ways to provide value to everyone in a group setting and also in a more efficient setting. So I think this was a really full answer, honestly, Ikhlas, and I'll have my team make sure they email this video to your question 3. And it's cool that it's numbered so that you can skip through question 3 and we can time mark it in the video. That's amazing. Question 4. Registering an LLC with 2 foreign members, does each member need to pay 37% flat tax rate for all income? If yes, what other tax strategies do we advise? Each member as a single foreign-owned LLC to register the main LLC? With a question? Okay, so this is a great question. And the question really is, when does a multi-member LLC, a multi-member foreign-owned LLC, have to withhold taxes on the profits of the foreign members? That is a great question. And the answer is when you have U.S. source income from a U.S. trade or business. And this is something I talk about in many of my videos. A U.S. trade or business is a business physically occurring in the United States. And the physically part is very important because the internet is not located in the United States. The internet is located where you access it from. So if you access the internet from Kazakhstan, like the last guy, then you're doing your work from Kazakhstan. You have a trader business in Kazakhstan. If you're doing all your work from your computer there, so that is that's the spot, you know. So if you don't do anything in the U.S., you don't have employees, you don't have an office, you don't have a private warehouse, you don't have any. If you have a, you know, using a fulfillment center is fine, but you don't have a private warehouse, you're good. If you're using U.S. real estate, if you're investing in real estate, rental income, that is one of the times when you do have to withhold those taxes for the foreign partners. And in that instance, there's other options, which would be potentially a C Corp election or just using a single member LLC and uh, and and having it that way. If you ultimately, if you have multiple LLCs that own the other LLCs, it still pulls back down to a foreign-owned single member, a foreign-owned multi-member LLC. The ultimate owner is still a foreign person. So yeah, can you get away easier with the filing if you put an EIN number and do it that way? Yeah, you can probably with if you have LLCs that own the LLC, you can probably slip it through, well, with less of a risk of the IRS asking you about it. However, eventually you could have even more problems, but because of the way you do it. You know, I think doing it that way with multiple, having an LLC and then LLC are partners of this LLC, I think that's a lower risk way to do it. But if you have foreign person LLC, then and you're not doing a U.S. trade or business, it's fine and you don't have to withhold taxes. It's only if, let's say, you have rental properties owned by this LLC and there's two foreign owners, the profits from that, technically there should be withholding reported on those profits. Another strategy you have is to just ensure that you minimize the profits by reinvesting most of the profits and also by paying out management fees or other services that you've provided to the company. Again, not the best answer, but it works and it's better than just having huge profits on a rental business and not doing any withholdings. So I think that answers that question pretty well. Um, it depends again on what you're actually doing, right? Woo. Hi Jim, I formed LLC last year with your help. We're about to start the process of our products at Amazon US. Amazing. This is from last week. This is from Federico. Um, that's fine. I'll touch on it briefly again. If you're getting started with an LLC, no, it's actually the time it would be if you're getting started on Amazon using an LLC, I think that's a great idea. And all I would recommend is to do your tax interview correctly and then just make sure your business is structured correctly. There's no fancy tax stuff you need to do if you're foreign people, US non-residents, and you own an LLC and you're doing Amazon business. This one doesn't say who it's from or their residency at all, so I don't have any specific guidelines there. If you're a US person and you're starting on Amazon, then yeah, sure, you should do some tax planning. But honestly, if you leave it as an LLC, you can always make different elections and choices about how you treat your company for tax purposes later. You don't have to do it right away. James, since you moved to a new location, when I'm asked to match business address, should I also use the old one in order to match the address in LLC documents? Does my business, does my, no, I think it's, does my business address need to match my LLC registered business address? The answer is not generally. It's not essential. In my experience, it depends on who you're asking. If you're working with a bank and they want to see it that way, I'd say go to another branch and they'll probably be fine with it. I have this example happens to me constantly because I recently moved my business address and I have many companies registered at my old address. So I've opened bank accounts for companies that are registered at the 80 Southwest address, and now I'm at the 1401 address, and I've had no issues with banks or really with anyone, any kind of applications I've done. So it doesn't really matter that much the mailing address and the company documents as long as you have proof of address of where you currently are, because I think it's understood that people do move around. Give me a little again. Okay. Oh, 7. Having a Wyoming LLC, can I use mail address of other states? Do I need to register for the state? That's just okay. If you have a Wyoming LLC and you don't live in Wyoming, but you live in a different state, do you have to register in that state? The question is, are you doing business in the state? And if you have an office location and if you have and you're serving clients on location, technically, yes, you should register in the state. The many licenses require that, many insurances require that, and many state governments require that. Personally, for me, I have Wyoming companies that I use, and I also have Florida companies that I use. And you need at least one local company because if you're going to have an office. Because if to rent an office, you're going to have to get a business license and you might need a business license for stuff. So if you're actually doing business there, it's kind of important. But here's the kicker. If you are doing consulting online from your home, you have Wyoming LLC, you don't need a business license and you're using your home address, you don't need to register in your home state. It's not essential. It might be necessary in the future, but it's just not an essential thing that you have to do. So that's kind of my answer there. It depends on what you're doing. If you are actually have a business there or if you don't in your home state, that is, and if the state requires you to get licensed or to get registered, because all the states have different rules as it goes to that. But generally, if you have an office, you're going to register in that state. It might just make sense to open an LLC in that state. And I've said that in other videos. But for me, I'm doing consulting online. I sell courses. I do all kinds of stuff, but it's all online. Not all of it is location dependent. And I open LLCs and do strategy for a living. So I have Wyoming LLCs that have accounts that receive revenues that I use for different things. It's mostly just to play around and make sure I'm walking the talk or whatever. So talking the talk, walking the walk. But I operate mostly out of my Florida company, which is registered in Florida because I need a business license because I have to register for employment taxes in the state, all of that stuff. I have an LLC reselling goods in Amazon. The wholesale provider is in New York. To get a New York resale certificate, you need to register as a Florida LLC. Great question. If you're buying goods wholesale from a business and they're located in the state of New York, you need to give them a resale certificate. Sometimes wholesalers will accept local resale certificates like a Florida resale certificate. We don't usually request Wyoming resale certificates because those have to be done one by one. If you get a Wyoming resale certificate, you have to get it for each person each client you have. Whereas like a Florida resale certificate, you just get one and you show it to everybody. It depends on who you're buying from, to be honest with you, because buying wholesale, you're saying that, look, I'm buying this for resale. I'm located in Florida. I think you should be fine with whatever resale certificate you have. However, if they tell you we will only accept a New York resale certificate, you're kind of stuck and you have to register for sales taxes. You don't have to register. I don't believe you have to register as a foreign LLC. You don't have to register to do business in New York. You register separately just for sales taxes because plenty of businesses don't do business in New York, but do sell stuff into New York. There is a difference. So I wouldn't register for doing business in New York because it'll just create more of a mess and more stuff to do. See if you can register just for sales taxes. All that said, I don't live in New York anymore. I don't know the rules there specifically well. I would check out TaxJar, Avalara, and see the rules about registering for sales taxes in New York. But to answer your question, I would not register for doing business there if you don't have to. Hopefully you can register just for sales taxes. So I guess it depends on where you're registered. And if you can avoid it altogether, that's even better. If you can just give them your existing resale certificate, try that, push that, so then you don't have to even deal with it because New York's an aggressive state in terms of their taxation. How should you track and report your business expenses for a foreign-owned single-member LLC? Well, based on this question, if you're a foreign-owned single-member LLC, you have no U.S. trade or business. It doesn't matter what your business makes or doesn't make. You don't pay taxes in the U.S. because you have nothing to do in the U.S. So since you're not subject to taxes, you can include everything as an expense. On the annual filing, you don't actually have to like disclose your total sales and your total expenses and your net income. You're not even disclosing that on the total filing, so you can prepare your own accounting however you like. If it serves you best in Bulgaria from a tax perspective, go ahead and expense everything. You can justify it, and the IRS is never going to audit you and spend the time and money to challenge your income when you're not subject to tax anyways. Okay? And regarding the VAT, that's a great question. How do you avoid VAT taxes in Europe with a single member LLC? The VAT taxes can only be avoided, from my understanding and practical experience, by showing that you have a valid passport from a non-VAT country. So while I'm traveling and I go shopping, if I spend over $100, I just bought two Apple Pencils for my kids to do homeschool. I gave them my passport and they printed me out a certificate, and now I can get 12% back when I leave the country. I don't know how that applies. I don't think you can register a company for VAT exclusions. I think it's a more of a personal thing, but I'm not an expert at the topic. I just know that maybe you can show your passport personally and get excluded for VAT taxes and then pay with your business credit card. That's what I would do. I would try and use your personal stuff and then pay with the business credit card. But it sounds like you're not paying taxes anywhere, so I wouldn't I wouldn't aggressively spend money to lower your tax bill when you don't not subject to tax anyways, right? I would just buy what you want or whatever, but none of this is a benefit for tax purposes if you don't even subject to tax. Okay, question 10. This is Andruga Mike Francis, CEO of Macrom Company in Juba City, South Sudan. Business partnership solution. Yeah, I don't think this is a real question. This isn't even a question. I'm requesting your business partnership solution. Looks probably spam. No offense, Mike Francis, but that's not a question. There's literally no question mark. Question 11. Is it more beneficial to have a partnership for tax purposes of a foreigner? Can your foreign company be a parent to yours? Is this feasible alternative? When should you make your foreign-owned single-member LLC a foreign-owned multi-member LLC so that you can be taxed as a partnership in the U.S.? That's a great question. When should you do it? The answer I'm going to give you is when you have to avoid tax withholding or to ease the collection of payments. I generally recommend this only when, oh, and I guess also for potential asset protection scenarios. I don't think this question mentions what they're actually doing. So without knowing what they're doing, I'll touch on a couple scenarios. So if a, so I will recommend that a single member LLC, foreign owned single member LLC, add 1% ownership from a foreign company or something like that when you're having issues getting paid without withholding. And I touch on this issue a lot. I have a caller who was a Colombian who was doing work for Nike and Adidas. And it's on one of my older videos. I think it was in English. And he was getting paid from both companies, but for doing the exact same work. One company sent him his money in full. The other company withheld 30% on his check. For that other company, I would give him a W-9, I would add a partner, and I would say you're a partnership and they won't withhold that tax because it's not, in my opinion, and in Adidas' opinion, and please don't sue me, Adidas or Nike, I don't remember which one was which, but in the example I'm using, it was Adidas. Adidas agrees with me as well because they didn't withhold taxes either. So that's when I would recommend it, when it's necessary. I mean, obviously, if you have a business partner, that's great too. Another instance is for when you have stock investments or when you have real estate investments. having a multi-member LLC can give you additional estate tax protection and also a little more legal liability protection depending on what you're doing. So in those instances, when you have potentially assets being invested or you have people or companies withholding taxes on your payments, I would consider adding a partner and making it a multi-member LLC. And if you want to add a partner, adding 1% of your foreign of another company you own is a great idea, or 50%, 90%. It doesn't really matter if you're not doing have a US trade or business because you're not paying taxes on it anyways. So yeah, that's what I would recommend is that you can add add 1% of your local company. I'm just gonna say where he's from. No. So the answer is yes. Why is this the case? Can your foreign company be a parent of the LLC in a partnership with you? That is a feasible alternative. You can own how many percent in the company owns that many percent. Good question, well worded. If you edited it, Danny, thank you. Let's see here. With Wyoming LLC buying from New York wholesale, selling Amazon, do I need to register? We already answered this one. Ooh, I think that's it. That's it. 30 minutes today, a short AMA. Let me go back to the chat here. Let's see what we got. We only have Truth here, and Truth asked me another question. While people dropping in, Truth did ask me a question in the English tab. And let me get in here for a second. Truth said, oh, you were the last one. Yeah, I think I answered this one, right, Truth? You happy with the answer? Is chat enabled here? I have to check if chat's enabled. I'm trying to see. Is there any other questions that were coming through here, Danny? Everyone, we're going live now. We're going to be updating this a little bit, the server, so it's a little more fun. But let me see how I can look at that. Okay, let's go Spanish because I had no Spanish questions on this call. And maybe if you guys in the call, El Paciente, I assume speaks Spanish. MD is with me. In truth, La Verdad, I don't know if he speaks Spanish. I don't even know how people can comment on here. Spectators. Okay. Hola Jim, si mi LLC es una empresa de servicios y sus propietarios son extranjeros, ¿hay alguna limitación para registrarse como contratista o subcontratista de servicio para el gobierno de Estados Unidos? ¿Cuáles serían los requisitos? Si usted es un extranjero con un LLC y usted quiere ofrecer servicios al gobierno de Estados Unidos, yo adivino que no sería posible. Yo creo que el gobierno de Estados Unidos tiene que saber quién está haciendo negocios y tiene que ser una persona de Estados Unidos para aplicar para ese trabajo. Si yo no sé de verdad, la única manera para averiguarlo es para intentar y para ver. Y de verdad, yo no sé, pero intenta y ver. Yo hice esa registración antes, pero yo creo que Estados Unidos es súper pro Estados Unidos. Y cuando hay 300 millones de americanos, ellos van a dejarlo para los americanos. Entonces, mi respuesta es inténtalo y me avisa, porque yo no sé la respuesta de verdad, pero si yo creo que no. Yo soy una optimista, 100% del tiempo, pero yo creo que no es posible. Bueno, yo voy a revisar esas preguntas y hacerlo en español. Y hay una cosa, un tool aquí, script editor, translate. Well, in any case, if you leave in truth, appreciate you for being here, buddy. El paciente, Marius del Mar. Yo creo que, Dani, debemos hacer la primera media hora en inglés y la última parte en español para que no cambiamos. Debemos hacer eso al siguiente, en el futuro, para que no tenemos que ser gente que no habla inglés escuchando mis comentarios en inglés. Vamos a explicar eso al futuro para que avanzamos, ¿no? Ok, bueno, voy a dejarlo así. ¿Cuándo tengo que compartir información de socios de una LLC con más que un miembro? Cuando alguien pide un W9, un W9. Y la respuesta en español esa vez es que no tiene que dar la información sobre los socios cuando alguien está pagándose. Entonces, si yo estoy, yo estoy pagándose para un servicio a su compañía y yo pido un W9, un W9 para que pueda mandar un 1099 al final del año, yo puedo pedir a quiénes son los socios solo para saber, pero eso no es, ustedes no están requeridos mandar eso y compartir eso conmigo. Pero cuando estás aplicando para una cuenta bancaria o un brokerage account o un procedimiento de pagos o algo oficial, ya tienes que compartir toda la información sobre los socios que tienen más que 20%. Y es diferente dependiendo en la organización lo que está haciendo y eso está requerido por su parte de ellos, porque siempre en ese environamiento donde estamos, las instituciones tienen que conocer sus clientes y cada persona puede abrir un LLC y no decir quién es el dueño y eso es como hay lavando dinero y eso. Entonces es un requerimiento para que ellos saben y conocen sus clientes y eso no separa el LLC, eso se separa a los dueños del LLC siempre. Pero para pagos, no, no señor. That's what this, okay. Danny, me manda un texto si alguien tiene pregunta en el live, porque no estoy viendo eso. Bueno, oh, eso fue una pregunta y recibí una locura, no entiendo nada de eso. Yo creo que ese señor, ¿cómo se llama eso? El Bishwa. Yo creo que él no habla español porque eso no tiene sentido. Bueno, eso es una buena pregunta. Ya contesté en inglés, pero sigo contestando en español. Yo estoy haciendo Amazon. ¿Qué es mejor, usar una corporación o una LLC? Y eso es la pregunta. Mi respuesta es que si usted está de afuera y no vive en Estados Unidos y no tiene ninguna conexión de Estados Unidos, está usando Amazon FBA o está usando un fulfillment center, yo recomiendo que se use una LLC para no pagar impuestos en Estados Unidos. Siempre una corporación es una persona natural de Estados Unidos que se paga impuestos en Estados Unidos. Y así va a estar pagando impuestos cuando normalmente no tiene que hacerlo. Y el problema llega así, especialmente si usted vive en un lugar como Kazajstán o un lugar donde no tiene que pagar impuestos si no saca el dinero a su país. Yo no entiendo por qué va a usar una corporación. No hay ningún beneficio así. Siempre es recomendable si usa una LLC. Si quiere usar una corporación, va a estar pagando impuestos en Estados Unidos. Y si se está usando una corporación y vive en un lugar como Bélgica o como Inglaterra y vives y pagas impuestos en ese lugar, el problema es así. El problema es así. Va a pagar impuestos en Estados Unidos y también va a tener riesgo en su país local porque oficialmente estás haciendo todo el trabajo físicamente en ese país. Y si tiene un LLC y vive en Inglaterra, no paga impuestos en Estados Unidos, pero paga en Inglaterra porque está haciendo el trabajo allá. Si tiene una corporación, paga en Estados Unidos por como es, y también tiene riesgo que esa corporación está haciendo negocios en Inglaterra. Y es lo mismo a todos los países. El riesgo para una compañía pequeña es pequeño, pero yo voy a recomendar una estructura diferente para que se puede protegerse de dos países de impuestos, porque doble impuestos es el miedo que tiene todos los ricos y la gente de negocio pagar doble, impuesto doble es lo peor. Y puede evitarlo con planificación y si vive en un buen país, puede evitar impuestos 100% usando una LLC y vive en Panamá como una canadiense. Entonces, hay maneras para pagar cero impuestos también. Entonces, eso es lo que recomiendo. Si yo tengo un C Corporation y yo estoy haciendo Amazon, puedo deducir el inventario que compro al final del año. Y la respuesta, yo voy a hacer algún research luego, pero la respuesta es que posiblemente. ¿Por qué? Si usted tiene una corporación pequeña en el método de contabilidad que se llama cash, eso dice que no es accrual. Accrual es que tiene que poner las actividades en el periodo donde se pasa, cuando se pasa. Pero cash, ese método de contabilidad es cuando se gasta, es gasto. Cuando se paga, es gasto. Y hay una, ¿cómo se llama? Una posición que podemos tomar con el gobierno que una compra de de inventario es un gasto y eso es posible, es algo que podemos hacer y es un poco agresivo, pero no tan riesgo y así puede usar sus cosas. La cosa es, no puedes usar ese método de contabilidad si tiene ventas que más que 5,000 sobre 3 años. Si es 5 o 1,000, eso es mi problema. No me acuerdo de eso, pero si tiene un nivel de ventas más que 1,000,000, no puede usar ese método de contabilidad de cash y entonces no puede gastar esa cosa cuando compras. Tiene que esperar hasta que vende la cosa, porque en Estados Unidos, y yo creo que mucho del mundo, si compra un activo como inventario, si compro 20,000 parejas de zapatos, yo no puedo deducirlo como gasto hasta que yo vendo esa cosa, porque siempre tengo, es un activo. Si compro algo, no es un gasto hasta que yo lo pierdo, yo lo uso. Entonces, eso es, ¿no? Eso es en Estados Unidos y otros países también. Entonces, yo registré 3 LLCs con una compañía y un dueño de la compañía, un americano, sacó los EINs del sistema usando su Social Security Number, su SSN. ¿Eso está correcto o no? Y mi respuesta es que si conoce a esa persona, eso no es un problema. Hacemos eso a veces con nuestro cliente porque la verdad es mucho más rápido, es mucho más sencillo. El problema es cuando tiene su nombre de la otra persona en la carta que recibes del IRS. Eso es el problema y algo que tiene que navegar. Ahora es más rápido y puede pedir el EIN y también puede hacer un formulario 8822B, yo creo, y con ese formulario puede cambiar quién es la persona, el responsible party, quién es la persona en el sistema del IRS sobre esa compañía. Eso se llama el responsible party. Y el responsible party es una cosa no bien definido con el IRS. Actualmente yo voy a explorar eso un poco porque siempre eso me ha interesado. What is a responsible party IRS? A responsible party is the individual or entity that controls, manages, directs, or ok, la persona de responsabilidad es una persona o entidad que controla o maneja o dirige la entidad y disposición de los activos. Es alguien que está en carga de la compañía. Y es muy interesante. Un nominee es alguien que no tiene responsabilidad. Entonces yo siempre voy a recomendar additional entities tiene que cambiar los cambios de responsabilidad party entre 60 días por usando ese formulario. Entonces debe hacer ese formulario para cada compañía que tiene y es súper sencillo. Quizá tiene en español, pero es nombre de negocio, EIN, dirección y lo que está cambiando. Y aquí, New Responsible Party Name, el paciente y el Tax ID. ¿Quién puede usar? Wait, tenemos que Instructions for Form SS4 para ver quién puede usar un EIN. Form SS4 Instructions. Eso nunca he realizado. Pero es algo que nunca hemos tenido un problema y siempre cambiamos lo más rápido posible. Vamos a buscar Responsible Party aquí. The responsible party tiene que ser una persona, no puede ser una entidad. Si usted no tiene un EIN, o no, un ITIN o Social Security number, puede dejar no 7B blank or enter NA, foreign or similar language. The responsible party doesn't have or is ineligible to get an SSN or ITIN. Entonces, hace su 88B. Ok, ya, there you go. El paciente, buena suerte. Gracias por su atención, amigo. Ya me voy, ya tengo que hacer escuela para los niños y estamos así, estamos bien. Nos vemos en la próxima llamada. Gracias por su atención y yo espero que eso ayude a ustedes y espero que mi equipo tiene todo esto arreglado. Ok, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for being here and for following all this stuff. Yep, still. Now once I figure out how to hang up, I'm gonna do it. See it, Truth. Actually, Truth. Oh, wait, is that 918? You saw it? Truth. And if it's possible to become a U.S. resident, that's why I prepared to write things off expenses. I don't. Yeah. So, Truth. What if any way pay for gas for my car? You can buy everything with your business card and expense everything, especially if you're a foreign person, you're not in the US, you're not even paying taxes here, so it doesn't matter what you expense here. I don't care what you expense. It's more depends on your local laws and how you want to do your accounting. So expense it all. And regarding the VAT, I don't really know the rules. All I know is that I know sales taxes. I don't know VAT. That's Europe stuff. All I know is that when I buy some stuff here in Paris, as long as I spend over $100, I can get 12% back when I leave the country. If you're planning to move to the US, everything changes. It has to be a business expense for you to deduct it. So, I mean, technically it should be a business expense. How the system works, let's do this. It's a good question. I'm gonna give you a little lecture on how the tax system works in the US. I'm planning to move to the US and I want to know how the tax system works. Well, that is an amazing question because I've been doing taxes for probably over 15 years. And here's how it works more or less. It's a little bit complicated and it's a little bit nuanced, but ultimately it's like this, very simple. You have your requirements, you have the things you have to do, you have the forms you have to file every year. It's January to December. And it's like this. The IRS works on the bank transactions, the bank statements. So if you get audited, they're going to look at the bank statements. Every year, you get your tax form, you put on the tax documents, your income, your expenses, all your details, you calculate your tax, you send it to the IRS. If you have a payment, you pay. If you get a refund, you get a refund. That means you had paid already. And if they have questions about it, they can ask you. The audit rate is like 0.01%, 0.01%. It's very, very low audit rate in the US. So there's a lot of people that are very aggressive with their tax positions. I like to give people all the options and let them make their own decisions. However, I would be more aggressive in expenses potentially if the audit rate's super low and I have good documentation and I can justify it. Technically, it needs to be a business expense for it to be just a business purpose. It needs to have a business purpose to be a business expense. So if you're driving, it's to see clients and all that stuff. So do your accounting, organize your numbers, justify your transactions, don't spend money you don't need to spend, and don't worry about taxes. Worry about making more money before you worry about saving in taxes. The only people that should worry about taxes are the people that are paying taxes. And if you've never paid taxes before and you're not making money, worry about making money first because that is the number one thing you have to do. You have to make money before you pay taxes. I'm not saying you don't make money, Truth, but I'm saying that it sounds like you're getting started just based on this conversation. And I wouldn't worry too much about the taxes. Keep your stuff organized and know if the IRS does audit you, they're going to ask to see your bank statements. You're going to have to justify the transactions out as expenses. And any money that comes in, they're going to consider income. Okay? I hope that helps. Thank you guys so much. And I'm out of here. I got to go.